for losing you. Not that we were cruel enough to do it. Now I feel so stupid. Don't you feel that too? The feeling lingers on every day of every month. Wishing I just could forget about you. The weight upon my bones makes it harder to move on. Oh baby, don't think that I'll ever forgive myself for losing you, or for losing you. Left our love up on those dusty shelves. Can't forget so good, it feels so good. Oh my, gonna make my move. I'm all in, got nothing to lose. Oh my, gonna shake it off. It ain't no thing, it ain't no thing. Oh my, doing what I want. Gonna do my thing, do my thing. Way up high and take it low. I'm feeling right from head to toe. Light it up and let it roll. Here I go. Are you ready? Ready to go? Are you ready? Ready for more? Are you ready? Ready for me? Oh my, you ready? Ready or not, let's go in. And I can't stop. Are you ready? Ready for me? Oh my, oh my. Gonna hit it big. I got my eyes on the prize. Oh my, gonna spin the wheel, cash it in and roll the dice. Oh my, it's a thing of gold. All I do is win. All I do is win. Oh my, no one ever fold. Start it up, let the game begin. Way up high and take it low. I'm feeling right from head to toe. Light it up and let it roll. Here I go. Are you ready? Ready to go, are you ready? Ready for more, are you ready? Ready for me? Oh my, you ready? Ready or not, let's go in. And I can't stop, are you ready? Ready for me? Oh my, oh my. Are you ready? Are you ready? Ready for me? Are you ready? Are you ready? Ready for me? Are you ready? Are you ready? Ready to go? Are you ready? Ready for more? Are you ready? Ready for me? Oh my, you ready? Ready or not, let's go in. And I can't stop, are you ready? Ready for me? Oh my, oh my. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yo!
Yo.
What's up, everyone? Oh, welcome to another Saturday. Great to be here. Happy internet, everyone. We have a special guest today, Alberto Cairo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right. For those that I think most folks in the chat know who Alberto is. So for those that don't, though, Alberto, you are a professor at the University of Miami. You are an author. You are a visualization master. If folks don't know, he's written many books like How Charts Lie, and working on. I think I saw a tweet that you did of The Art of Insight is one that you're working on for next year.
I'm supposed to publish that next year. Yes, I'm supposed to finish it before December. I'm crossing my fingers. I hope that I will be able to meet the deadline. I'm so easily distracted.
That's okay. That's okay. We are too. We are too.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's all good. Anything else about your world that you'd like to share with the audience?
Sure. I was born in Spain. I have a background in journalism. I was the director of graphics at several media publications in Spain. And I moved to the United States to become a professor. Then I moved to Brazil. I went back in the industry. I was a graphics director at also media publications down there in Brazil. So I'm trilingual. And then I came back to the US, became a professor again. But I have this strange, weird dual career between being an academic and being a practitioner. I still like to get my hands dirty, design things, and create stuff. And I don't know, writing about the practice. That's what I enjoy doing. So I don't really consider myself a researcher or an academic. I just teach the practice. I teach people how to design graphic. That's what I do.
And it sounds like you're a little bit of an explorer, just going
I
on the
like
journey.
Yeah, I enjoy the journey. I always say that. I always tell my students that because the students of these days they tend to be obsessed with the destination. Like, or really, how do I become a successful professional, whatever? I said, just enjoy the ride. I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
never compare yourself to anybody else. Compare yourself to yourself yesterday. If you accomplish something a little bit better than yesterday, then be happy about it. That's the
That's
way
it.
that you get better, right?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
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 A lot of comments about your Batman shirt. I
Oh
approve.
yeah. I was actually wearing a Black Sabbath T-shirt, but I
Oh.
changed clothes this morning. Yeah.
Now you're speaking Matthew Roach's language.
Matthew Roach was
Yes.
joking about
Yes.
our common like of
Yes.
classic
Yeah.
metal rock and stuff. So yeah.
Matthew is not a fan of our intro music ever.
Not at
and-
all. Not at
We would
all.
prefer
Not
prefer
at
some
all.
Manowar.
Yeah.
Metallica.
Manowar would be Matthew's thing. So that's all good. Yeah, he was asking if we designed the intro music before the countdown started, and I'm like, nope. So he was not thrilled. So, all
So
right.
yeah, I also like nerdy
Yeah,
stuff. Right?
we like nerdy
I like
things.
I like board games. I like Star
Love
Wars.
board
I like
games.
Game of Thrones. I like
Yeah.
the lore.
Oh,
I
Game
like
of Thrones.
history.
Yeah, Game of
Oh,
Thrones.
Game of
Yeah,
Thrones.
man.
Oh,
The new
be
the
still
new show
my
is
heart.
good.
All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, the new show is good.
I did watch the stream you did with Ben earlier this week, and I know he called out that he plays Risks, and I loved your comment of like, yeah, I do a little more complex board games than that.
A little, just
I
a
am
tiny
also.
bit more.
I am also. My family is not on board with that, but I have a game called Eclipse that I think it takes an hour and a half just to set up. And then it's like
Oh, that's nothing. Behind me, you have here a classic called the Russian Campaign, which is a simulation of Operation Barbarossa in
Nice.
Second World War. That's a simple one because
Nice.
the rules are only 12 pages long. But
Yes.
the one below, the rules are 50 pages long.
Love it.
And it's
Love
a,
it.
it's a delight. It's a
Love
delight.
it.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
I know.
No,
I know.
that's too much.
Yeah.
I don't blame anybody if they think that that's
No, we
this is
would-
crazy, but
We get along just fine, Alberto. All right. So let's get into some of the housekeeping. So we always love to start off the stream. If you are new to Gynacube or the live stream, if this is your first live stream or just Gynacube in general, put a hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing the new folks that come and join us. So that is always great. Also, shout out to our members of Gynacube. You help us do what we do here on Gynacube. Thank you so much for helping to support us. If you see folks with the green name or the Gynacube logo next to their name, those are members of Gynacube, so thank you so much. If you do want to learn more, check out the link on the screen or hit the join button down below. No commitment required, just thank you for checking it out. So appreciate that. All right, questions. Let's get into the rules. So Q : in front of your question to get them queued up. Chatmaster C is standing by to queue them up. One time is all you need. Do not spam the chat. We have a 3 strikes rule here on Gynacube. If you spam the chat, either Chatmaster C or one of our lovely moderators, except for Patrick, will put you in a timeout. So please don't do that. Also, we are going to be prioritizing data visualization questions, and preferably not Power BI specific. I do know, everyone knows Alberto Cairo is a master at DAX calculations, but we're going to stick just to data visualizations today. So,
All right.
But one thing I want to call out, though, since we're talking about data visualizations, there's this Workout Wednesday where they actually do some data visualization challenges. If you want to keep up with this and if you want to learn about it, I put the chat in the I put the link to it in the chat. So it's pretty cool. I actually started looking at it. The reason I'm bringing it up because I started looking at it last night and I was like, I should do some of these. Maybe I can get better at some data visualizations. I'm not doing it. But everybody's interested. You should go check it out.
Nice. All right. Real quick, let's just see who is new today. Going back, let's see here. Only see a couple. So Bob is new. Will is new. Yao is new. Share with Me is new. Bitu is new. Power BI in Dubai, new, coming after a week. Awesome. Love it. Great to have you. Linda is new to the live stream from the UK. That is one thing I love about our community. Nice. You are all over the world, and it amazes me. So, and then folks like New BI and Carrie Kolasco, who are down under in the Australia, and then there's folks from New Zealand area. It's after midnight there. That amazes me every time. Fabiano's new. Thrice W is new. Let's see. Linda's new. Scotty's new. Guillermo's new. Let's see.
It's lots of new.
Yeah, there's a bunch. Awesome. All right. And then MADZ is new. And Mark, hello from France. Welcome. Good to have you. James is new to the live also. Amazing. All right. All right. Enough of all that. Alberto, are you ready for the questions?
Sure.
All right, let's see here. We've got a bunch.
Enough of all this talking.
Let's head over to the queue.
I saw many Power BI questions over there.
Yeah, I will. I mentioned in the chat, if we do see a Power BI specific question, I will invoke the Power Query pivot function and pivot it to a generic question.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good too.
What's up, Patrick? You were going to say something.
No. Yeah. You just said it. You said it.
Cool. All right, let's go. So I am going to start off with where was Matthew? I thought you had. There was yes. Here we go. So we'll just start off with Matthew's question. I think Alberto, you answered it in the chat, but how would you approach the problem of visualizing the background, relative merits, and accomplishments of heavy metal vocalists? Would singer height, Dio, Adams, Steele factor into the approach?
Yeah, well, maybe this is not visualization related, but Matthew and I have this ongoing joke on Twitter that we send each other video clips of classic heavy metal songs whenever we are discussing something. And we also have this discussion as who is the best metal vocalist in history, and he thinks that's Eric Adams from Manowar, and I think that is Ronnie James Dio, who sang for Black Sabbath and Rainbow, and we have this ongoing joke. But the funny thing is that these vocalists are actually pretty short. Dio was super short, and Eric Adams is also quite short. I saw him live once, and he's shorter than I am, and I am short. I'm 5'7". And he's
Matthew
like
is tall.
5'5". Yeah, I know that Matthew is tall, but these guys are. So there's some very strange, very interesting and intriguing inverse correlation between height and mastery, right? That I would love to see a scatter plot in which people will plot all these singers and actually plot the height versus the popularity or something like that. That would be
you're saying
interesting project.
So my takeaway from that is if you're shorter, you have better mastery.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
At least
Matthew.
With these two cases, they may be two outliers, and it may turn out that there is not a correlation in there, right? But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right.
So there's no member questions today, right, Adam?
No pre-submitted member questions, no, and we're not doing a member-only chat.
But what
Sorry
about we?
Yeah. No, it's open chat for the whole
thing.
thing.
Asking. People
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah.
All right, Matthias is normally our first starter question of the stream. He was in, so I will preface this that Matthias's question was very Power BI related, and I will be pivoting it. But it's a two-parter. So I have a line chart for sales and volume with two y-axes for each. But due to the different auto-scaling, the lines seem spurious. However, without the auto-scaling, I cannot filter the chart, and with only one y-axis, volume is not reasonable. Any best practices? And I would pivot this on when we're dealing with multiple lines in a chart, like what are the thought processes that go into that?
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I guess that here's where we are going to say for the first time, it depends, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Get your dollars ready, Patrick.
There you go. There you go. I know that. It depends. All right. So let me begin with a general thought that actually underlies my entire philosophy about related to information design, not only specifically data visualization, but the visual display of information of any kind, right? It's like data visualization, information graphics, visual explanations, is that we need to approach these tasks as a little bit as we approach writing, right? When there are really not many rules in writing, right? As long as you follow a grammar, that you know the syntax of the language, then whatever you do with the grammar and the syntax greatly depends on your own expectations, values, goals, and so on and so forth. Then you design something. But the important part is that if your goal is to communicate a clear idea through your writing, it's always good to test that idea after you have written something to see whether the message has gone through. So that leads me to the following thought. Dual scale charts, for example, could be a solution for cases like these. Using nonlinear scales could be a possible solution for something like this, not necessarily an arithmetic scale, but maybe a logarithmic scale, right? Using multiple charts instead of trying to cram everything into a single chart, creating a sort of like a trellis chart in which you have a little chart for each one of the variables that you want to visualize. Any of those is a possible solution that you could apply to a problem like these. When you have measures that diverge a lot, it's super difficult to put them all together just because some of them will become very visible because they will be very high in the y-axis, and many of them will be at the very bottom. They will be very visible. That line will be so close to the baseline that it's impossible to see any variation. So any of these possible solutions is acceptable. Which one of them is better? I have no idea, because it greatly depends on the nature of the data in the first place. But it also greatly depends. It depends. Get the dollars ready. It is also dependent on the nature of the audience. Who is going to consume that graphic? So the key thing is that I would try different solutions, thinking about the message that I want to convey or the tasks that I want people to undertake with my data visualization, and I will test it. I will simply show it to a representative sample of people and see how they respond, whether there is a match between what I want to communicate and what they actually get from the chart. That's what actually tells you whether a graphic is good or not. A graphic is good or not whether depending on whether you follow rules. It is good or not whether it communicates what it intends to communicate. That's sort of like the bottom line, right? Sorry, I rumble a little bit.
No,
I really care about these things. Yeah,
I'm soaking it up. So yeah, I love that too about the. Oh, go ahead. Go, Patrick.
It's what we always say, right? You gotta know. You need to talk to people and make sure you answer the questions with your visuals that they're asking, right? Don't just put some stuff together and go, oh, that's it, that's perfect. You really gotta talk to the report consumers or whoever's consuming this and make sure that you're answering their question. That's it. Yeah. I see a lot of people, they create their line chart and they put 15 lines on. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Alberto. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say that talk to people, see what they need, what they want to see. Yeah, that's your first step, and then
you have to talk to people. What did I say?
You have to talk to people. Believe it or not, right?
I'm out. Yep, I agree. I love it. Okay, let's see here. Thomas has got a question here. Maps or charts for visualizing geographical data?
Well, that's an excellent question. One of the exercises that I've done throughout the years in workshops and classes is to give people data sets to visualize. I give them a small data set and visualize it for me, transform it into some sort of graphic. And I know that depending on the nature of the data set that you give people, they will default to certain types of graphics. So if the data set contains a geographic variable, they will default and go design
human
a map.
nature, right?
Exactly. It's like you have portions of a total. What do you visualize? A pie chart. Right? People tend to default and design to the pie chart.
Pie chart, all the things.
Maps pie chart, all the things. And if the data set contains a geographical variable, they design a map. So again, are maps or charts? What do you want to communicate?
Yes.
What do you want to see? Do you want to see a geographic pattern? Is there any sort of pattern in the data that is worth displaying geographically? No, I'm not going to say it, Patrick. You don't need the dollar.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just avoiding that. I'm avoiding the sentence. But yeah, it's like you have a geographic pattern that you want to see. Well, then you need a map. But if the purpose of the graphic is to compare, right? For instance, compare the regions to each other on the map, you don't need a map. You need some sort of bar graph or something like that, right?
That sounds like it depends to me.
Well,
I didn't say
I think he's being more specific though. He's saying, look, if you do this, you need this. Yeah, right. So it's not. It depends.
You define what you want to accomplish. You define what you want what you want your readers to be able to do with the graphic, and in relationship to that, you decide what type of chart better lets you accomplish that goal. That's the it depends made more specific, and even more actionable.
Yeah.
Hey.
So
you got to go with the man.
If you get focused, then it's not an it depends because you know exactly what it is you need to choose. Right. Okay.
It will still depend.
You got to go talk.
It will still depend because there's a little bit of leeway always in the way that we design things. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's another dollar coming in. There's a lot of subjectivity also in the design of visualizations. And as I said before, you never know whether the visualization will work out or not at the end.
Yeah. That's good.
All right. All right. So let's go to. I'm going to go. Carrie Kolosko is in the chat as well, and I expected her to have. She's kind of one of the visualization people in the Power BI community. So I did expect her. She has a ton of questions in the queue, so I'm just going to go with one to start. Form versus function, or aesthetics versus utility with data visualizations. How important are aesthetics in data visualization for business intelligence, and how can Power BI users improve aesthetics?
That's an excellent question. All right, so it would take an entire book to answer it, but I'm going to
go another book idea. Here we go.
Another book that someone should write. I don't want to write books anymore myself. By the way, I am right now collaborating with a publishing house for which I am the editor, and I'm persuading people to write books, so I don't need to write them.
Nice.
So I'm working as an editor.
It's not that you're lazy. You're efficient.
It's not that I'm lazy. It's that it's like I like to work in other things. But in any case, that's an excellent question. Well, there is a wonderful book, by the way, that you could consult about these topics called Emotional Design by Donna Norman. Norman is also the author of a famous book titled The Design of Everyday Things, which I also recommend. It's a great classic book. And in emotional design, he says, essentially the core message of the book is that things that look good also work better in general. There are many exceptions to that rule, but if a tool, a device, an interactive display, whatever, looks good, it usually also works better. It works better because it looks good? No, it works better because when something looks good, you put people in a good mood. You are looking at something so beautiful that you feel prompted to use it, to explore its functions, to try to navigate it. So there is something about beauty and elegance that prompts people to use these devices. And that effort leads to more functionality, not because the object is functional on its own, but by virtue of being attractive. So should people who design dashboard care about typography, color, composition, all design? I would say absolutely yes. Those are not byproducts. That's one of the things that I try to disabuse people from when they come to my classes. My classes at UM are journalism classes, but most of my students are not journalists. They are data scientists, they are statisticians, engineers, and what I teach mostly is obviously not related to models or statistics. It's more related to design, how you make things look better, and try to show people the value of good design, which is, again, not a byproduct. It's not the icing on the cake, as people like to say. It's part of the functionality of the product. So I would encourage people to read and learn about, again, typography, color theory, and visual design. You know, there are many books out there that deal with that. How to improve them? Attention to all these aspects of the design. And also interaction design, obviously, and user experience. Reading in those fields can greatly benefit anybody who works in data visualization.
Nice. Yeah, and I always love to going back to your point about journalism. It's not necessarily about modeling or statistics. As I try to look at other areas as well and how that could potentially relate to my field, even though there's not a direct like that's where people would go. So you can always pull something out of it. Awesome. All right, let's go to Chris. What are good ways to visualize process type things? So products that go through development milestones, planning, development, testing, release.
That's a good one.
So yeah, I mean, you can do that with, you can create that type of graphic in Excel or in PowerPoint if you want to, right? Or in any other, but I tend to default to graphics that visualize processes in a more pictorial way. I like pictorial graphics. I like graphics that include icons, pictograms, illustrations, right? This graphic that you have here, I pointed this out the other day in the other live cast. But this is the draft of an actual infographic designed by Fernando Baptista, who is one of the main designers at National Geographic magazine. It's a cutaway of the Sagrada Familia Cathedral in Barcelona. This is one of the earlier sketches. The final product looks beautiful. It's this absolutely gorgeous cutaway of the building. I love that type of graphic. We call those infographics in the news industry, right? Pictorial depictions of information. That's what I would like to see more in companies. Processes that are explained not just, through bare boxes connected to each other with crappy arrows, but actually, beautiful displays that have, and I mean, I don't want to mock anyone, right? It's show me something that looks better.
Yeah.
Again, as I said before, something that looks better will prompt people to use it more and to also use it better. So again, I teach my students, for example, I teach data scientists how to draw. I teach my students how to draw icons and pictograms, and some of them don't see the value of that at the very beginning of the class, but then when they see that they are capable of doing it, of drawing a little icon fully customized to include in their presentations and data visualizations, they see the value of that because it really makes the visualization more unique.
Right.
And that uniqueness conveys something, makes the graphic more attractive, more appealing, more readable also.
Yeah, and I remember the presentation you did at the end of June that Patrick and I were in on. You showed an example of, there were like some boxes with some arrows, and it was kind of boring and dull. And you changed it up to be where it was about malaria and
it was about malaria. Yeah,
and you had like a mosquito image right above the box where it said malaria.
And it was a silhouette. It was just a silhouette of a mosquito.
Yeah.
It was nothing else. But you made the presentation more unique, right?
Yes.
I usually tell my students that readers don't really notice these consciously, but they do notice it unconsciously. They notice when something was designed by a software tool versus when something was designed by a person using a software tool. Right. So the graphic that you're mentioning, the original one, looked like your traditional
like
classic PowerPoint bubble, blue bubble with red arrows type of thing. It was a perfectly fine design. It was not a bad design, but it was not unique. It was like any other PowerPoint diagram that you see everywhere. But the redesign, just by including the mosquito and polishing the arrows a little bit more, it looks more like something designed by a human being. And readers unconsciously perceive that care that the designer put in designing something better, the same way that we detect when a writer puts some effort on editing the writing and making the writing more readable and also more elegant. We cannot tell why it reads better, but it does read better, and we notice it.
Love it. I agree. And I want something to pull me in and keep me interested and get my attention. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Let's see here. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So we've got a question here about dashboards. What are some of your design principles when building a dashboard?
I mean, I don't build a lot of dashboards. I have built some in my career, but I don't build them constantly. But, the principles of designing...
So
neither does Patrick.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, anybody who works in visualization at some point will be asked to design a dashboard. But the principles of designing a dashboard are not different to the principles of designing any other type of interactive data visualization. As I said before, the first step is don't assume that just because you have worked in visualization for decades, like it's my case, you know everything, because you know nothing. No matter how well you apply design rules and principles, whatever, nothing resists the tests against reality. And in this case, the reality is the reader. So talk to people first to see, not to
Talking to
ask them
people
what
again.
they need, because people usually don't know what they need, but to actually try to detect what it is that they need to get from the data. Don't ask them directly. Try to identify what their needs are more indirectly, because people sometimes cannot verbalize what they truly need. And based on that, that prior work that you do, which is research at the end, you need to do that research. Then you can create a first prototype that you need to that then you need to present to people. I see people making jokes about Game of Thrones. You know nothing.
Yeah. You know nothing,
Well,
Jason. I was waiting for that.
Exactly.
You know nothing.
I love that.
You know
I love that.
nothing. You know nothing.
No, nothing. Well, there is value in that, right? It's like, and then show it to readers. I mean, and the way to show it to readers is that put people in front of the graphic that you're designing. And again, this applies to an infographic like this, to a data visualization, to a dashboard. Don't tell them anything. Just let them navigate the graphic. And if they do sort of like what they want, that you wanted them to do, or if you see that they extract from the visualization the messages that you wanted them to extract, then you know that it works. But if they don't, you need to go back to the drawing table and do it again.
Absolutely.
I think our biggest challenge, though, as IT professionals, is we think we know everything, and we don't need to talk to report consumers. We don't need to talk to people. They tell us, "Oh, I need a sales dashboard." Okay, shh, I got it. I'll be back. And we disappear, and we go create something, and they're like, "What the French toast is this?" But anyway,
But
so
it's not a problem just in BI. I mean, I come from the world of journalism. For decades, journalism was also like that. We talked to people rather than with people, and I think that we need to talk more with people rather than talking to people.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've always disliked in my careers, when Patrick and I were very front and center on the Power BI community, and people will say like, "Oh, you guys are experts." I hate that term. I don't.
Oh, I hate that.
I don't like that.
I absolutely hate, for example, when people get one of my books and they quote me as using an argument from authority. I say, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's not how. But unfortunately, the world of visualization is a little bit like that. People like to sort of like read a book and think that whatever is written in that book is written in stone. Yeah. When in reality, all that we write about, people who write a visualization, all that we write about is our own opinions. Obviously, those opinions are based on experience, what we have seen. But it's all temporary. It's all subject to change. We are probably wrong about many things that we are writing right now, and we will correct ourselves later on the advice that we gave years ago. All books about visualization are part of a constant chain of improvement, right, and learning. What are you laughing about? You're reading all the questions and I am not.
No, Patrick doesn't see the questions. Only I in Chat Master see them. So he's laughing at the chat.
Oh, okay.
Because it's true. It's true. Everything he's saying. I say this all the time. So I do data modeling in DAX. I'm not a visualization person. But one thing I tell, it all applies. You have to leave your office and talk to the people that's going to use whatever you create. That's all I'm saying. I say it all the time in all the videos. Nobody watches my videos. Nobody watches all the videos I put out. They watch Adam videos. Even though I make the videos that people need, they watch Adam's videos more than mine. So it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely not an expert. I am definitely not an expert.
Yeah, I don't like that label either.
Yes.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Let's go to. So I'm going to bring up. So Will Thompson is.
That's a good question.
Long time program manager on the Power BI product team, and so he's kind of changing roles a little bit. But he's got a question. Most folks from the Power BI community do data visualization for business users, not for the public like data journalism or policymakers would. Are there guidelines that apply more for business versus public data visualization?
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I would say that, for example, the value of uniqueness perhaps is not as high in in business visualization as it is in journalism, because in journalism you cannot really guess who your audience is going to be. Potentially, your audience could be anybody who reads the newspaper, magazine, or whatever publication you're working on. So there's a lot of value on trying to bring to the table, designing something that is more unique, more in business graphics. Perhaps that value still exists. I still think that there's value on, again, putting your own design decisions in the design, but it's not as important as it is, for example, making something that is readable, that is easy to navigate, that actually provides the insights and access to the patterns that people need to see. But other than that, like the different weight that we give to the, let's say, the more visually appealing part of the graphic and the more functional part of the graphic, it's all a balance in there. I don't see many differences perhaps in the level of depth that you put in the graphic, right? If you're in a business context, you may want people to be able to navigate the data much more deeply than you would if you design that same graphic to be presented to the public. So it's all a matter of degrees. Right? I see everything in gray scales. I never see things in black and white either or.
Yes.
I see everything in a sort of like in a gradient of grays, right? So again, it all depends.
Yes. All right. So James has a question here that is interesting. So he says, "What's your favorite all-around base visualization?" Or like, what? People sometimes ask, "What's the best visual to use?"
No, there's no best visual to use, but we all have favorites, aesthetically speaking. Right? So I love, in terms of graphs, I love scatter plots. I just simply like scatter plots. I like looking at scatter plots for some reason. There's something appealing about the density of data and the, let's say, the exploratory possibilities that the scatter plot allows. I am also very aware of the dangers of scatter plots, right? The connection between correlations, associations, causation. Is very easy to infer causation from a mere scatter plot, but I still love them aesthetically. And then I love maps. I absolutely love maps. I was talking about this the other day. I got into data visualization because one day, in the middle of 10 years ago, in the middle of my career, I noticed that the maps that I was designing were not that great, and there was some room for improvement. And I started reading about cartography, thematic cartography, data cartography. And I discovered a new world. I mean, it was like, oh my God, why didn't I know about all these? And I got into data visualization through thematic cartography, through mapping. So I have a soft spot for maps. I know that maps are often misused, just because sometimes maps are not needed, as we talked about before. But when I see a map, it really gets my attention. I take a look at the map, and then I will read everything else. So I usually like to use maps, or to see maps, when I see story, to open up the story, to bring people's attention to the information, and then to show them more data and more detail. Maps are wonderful.
Yeah. So I would say that this one depends on what you're going after. So, Patrick, it'll click here in a second. No.
Sorry, I was not
Distracted.
Patrick, it depends.
Oh,
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
Pay attention.
Actually, Patrick missed the time that I also said just a minute ago. I think I also said it.
Yes.
So we're four. We got four, Kevin.
All right,
we got
there
four.
we go.
Wow.
I think we're gonna break the record here.
Maybe. All right. Fernando's got one. What's one of the first advices you give to a first-year student about data visualization?
I try to disabuse them from, the first advice that I give them is that to be a good visualization designer, first of all, you need to be a good visualization reader. So I encourage them to, whenever they see a data visualization, a graph, a map, a chart in news media, see, that's what I wrote that book. Yeah, exactly. So I try to encourage them to try to reverse engineer graphics. So we did that exactly this same week, because we are beginning the semester. So I got a visualization from the New York Times from that very same day. I still read the print paper, and that old fashioned. I took a photograph of the visualization. I brought it to class. I said, A great exercise to become a good visualization designer is to reverse engineer something like this. Why did they choose this type of graphic? Why did they put the headline here? Why did they wrote this annotation? Why did they use this color palette? Why? Try to guess why they made all these decisions.
Yeah.
Try to identify the reasons behind those decisions. Because I try to explain to the students that, again, visualization design doesn't consist of applying rules. It consists of making reasoned and justified choices. And you need to learn how to justify those choices to yourself and also to other people. And a great exercise is to decompose
Yes.
existing graphics so you can learn from that process of reverse engineering graphics. So that would be the first advice. Become a better reader of visualization by becoming a more attentive reader of visualizations.
Yeah. And I think that comment about like reverse engineering or decomposing and trying to understand why someone went a certain way, that applies to a lot of learnings, like just the approach of learning anything. Like that's how I learned YouTube.
If you want to become a good writer, if you want to become a good writer, one of the best ways to become a good writer is to read. And to read not just for pleasure and read fast. No, read and take notes and try to see why that author structured the message this way or that way. Try to guess what the writer is trying to do. All these things at the end, writing, data visualization, journalism even, all these things are crafts. How do we learn to do a craft or to get involved in a craft? By copying other people. That's also advice that I give by students. It's the advice that I received at the beginning of my career. Copy someone. Copy not in the sense of plagiarizing anybody. Yeah, there you go. Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. That's a great book. Still Like an Artist. That's the message. It's steal, like again. But Austin is very clear in the book because he makes the clear distinction between copying and plagiarizing. Copying is you're trying to emulate something, and plagiarizing is copying everything without giving credit to whoever you're copying from.
It's more about inspiration and ideation,
borrowing ideas, then mixing them up somehow in order to eventually create your own way of doing things, right? That's the goal of the copying process.
Inspiration.
And yes, Matthias, I have a bat chair as well. So Batman is on my chair. So awesome. All right.
I like what Fernando just said, though. Learn from the best, right? Learn from the best. So
it's not even learning from the best because it's hard to tell who is the best. It's like learn from the people who you think that are doing good work. That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Right now, I lost the question I was going to pull up. I agree. It's look for the things that resonate with you and with other people, and where does that? How does that translate?
How people respond to
I look at a lot of
and then
things,
try to emulate that.
I look at so many things from that are. I would say I even look at things that are bad because I want to learn. Like, okay, what do I not like? Like, what is maybe people like hating against or just giving bad
and try to learn about other areas that are not necessarily related to what you do directly. I usually say that some of my best ideas don't come from reading about data visualization. I barely read books about data visualization. I mean, I read them just because I am an editor, right? So I do read, right? But I read about philosophy. I wanted to become a history major when I was in college, and I also always loved reading about philosophy, epistemology. And eventually all that came back to me when talking about data visualization, because data visualization is representation of knowledge. So if you want to talk about representation of knowledge, it's useful to learn and to know a little bit about theories of epistemology. I don't know. I mean, I will ramble for hours about this. Try to expand your horizons. Like if you like sports, just go very deeply into reading and learning about sports, whatever. But whatever other areas, you will eventually find a way to bring that into your work, into your job somehow.
Yeah, in Steel City, I'm right there with you. I'm all about. I need to see examples and incorporate those things, and that's. I learn a lot going down that road. So awesome.
Bad chair.
It's going off on the chair. All right. Let's see here. So shared with me, who is new, also welcome. I had a question. What's the best visual to use to show comparison year on year and forward predictions?
Comparison year on year, do you mean like percentage change variation, or just the sheer variation of a variable throughout time? Because then it will lead us to perhaps using a simple time series line graph to display absolute change of a variable. But if we want to show percentage change using some sort of a bar graph with a zero baseline to show change over the previous period of time might be the best choice. And then after that, there may be some design considerations in there. For example, again, this is very fresh in my mind because I had this discussion with a student the other day in which we were talking about a graphic that was actually showing change over time, over the previous period of time, and it was a zero baseline, bars going up, bars going down. And the graphic that we were discussing actually included very small arrowheads on the tips of the bars. And those arrowheads didn't clutter the graphic. They were very, very subtle. But I said, I really like this design choice because it immediately tells you what you are looking at. Right? It's increase or decrease over the previous period of time. It's not a gratuitous design decision. There is a reason for these arrowheads to be in the graphic. It makes the message more straightforward, direct, intuitive to get. So it's not just a matter of choosing the right graphic form. It's also about thinking about design features that you could incorporate that may make the graphic more appealing, more useful, more readable, or faster to understand.
So it depends.
I didn't say it. You did.
All right.
So I guess it doesn't depend. It doesn't depend.
All right.
He didn't say it.
Power BI in Dubai came in with, so tree map visual, please give some insights considering you can't show negative value in it. So, and then also like where would be the right scenario to use a tree map visual?
All right. That's a long one. Absolutely, showing negative values in a tree map is risky. Well, not risky, but it's tricky. I guess that you could use color to indicate positive values versus negative values. You can color code the different sections of a tree map to display all that. A tree map is essentially a type of graphic that should be used to show parts of a total, the same in a similar way that a pie chart would, or a stacked bar graph would. But it has other virtues. That's not really what a tree map is truly about. A tree map is intended to show nested hierarchies, nested parts of totals. You have a total, then you have the first subdivision of a total, then you have a second subdivision of the subtotals. So just for those of you who have never seen a tree map, you may have a tree map that shows world population, which is you see a rectangle. And then that rectangle will be subdivided into very big rectangles, each one of them with a size, with an area proportional to the continents. And then each continent can be further subdivided to show the population of the different countries within that continent. So you have the total subdivided into subtotals, and then the subtotals further subdivided into smaller portions. That's a nested hierarchy. That's what a tree map is for. Would I use it in other contexts? Well, maybe, I don't know, but that's what they are usually for. That's what the type of task that they are usually associated with. They are a relatively unusual type of graphic form. So novel readers of visualization sometimes have a hard time understanding what it is that they are looking at and how to read it. But that's something that happens with every type of visualization, right? The first time that we see a graphic that we have never seen before, that's an example of a tree map. The first time that we see a visualization, it's not. That's a bad tree map. It could be improved. It could be improved.
A little bit.
Color-wise, right? Perhaps.
Every-wise, not just color-wise.
Every-wise, yes, every-wise. But in any case, like any other type of graphic, the first time that you see it, you don't really know what you're looking at. You need to be explained how to read it in order to be able to incorporate it to your vocabulary of data visualizations.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. There was one. Sorry, I got lost in my thing. So Tristan had a question. I know Carrie had this question earlier, and then Tristan came on it as well. So what do you think about the IBCS standards, especially for finance people? I feel like standards are sometimes dangerous, especially for data visualization.
Why are standards dangerous for data visualization? That would be my question. That would be a question for Tristan. Why do you think
Tristan,
that they are
Tristan.
dangerous?
Why are they
I'm
dangerous, Tristan?
Yeah.
Because they are too constraining, because they lead you in a specific direction and they don't give you enough freedom to these. So they work more or less like a corset or like a straight jacket, like a graphics style guide that many companies have. Maybe, yeah, maybe that's the reason why
I would,
they are dangerous.
and I would wonder, like, so standards, I think, have a place in terms of giving you some guidance, giving you, other thoughts of maybe how to approach them. I think some people look at standardizations as like, you can't deviate from this at all. Like, this is, you're stuck with this, where it's like, well, like, do what makes sense.
That's what I would guess. So I see standards of any kind, and I see graphics style guides in companies, for instance, as a starting point rather than as endpoints. Right? They warn you against not doing things in a certain way, but I usually encourage people to think also about these things and in terms of trying sometimes to break the mold a little bit, because you may end up in a situation, and perhaps this is where Tristan was going with the question, you may end up in circumstances in which the standard limits what you can do when you need to do something that is objectively beneficial, and the standard tells you, you cannot do this. Well, why not? Give me a good reason.
Yeah.
So my philosophy...
I tell my manager that all the time.
Yeah, that's good. So my philosophy of visualization is very pragmatic. I'm pragmatic in the philosophical sense, which is that if something works, it's good. That's it. I mean, no matter what the rule says, no matter what the principle says, if it works, it's good. So if it is good, I can give you a good reason why we should do it this way. And you cannot come to me saying, well, the standard says we cannot do it. I don't care. Yeah. Here's the empirical evidence that shows that if we do things this way, people will understand it better. Yes. So, show your standards whatever you want to show them. But it's like...
Yeah, Tristan came back and he said, because I think it's easier to put standards for programming languages or technical stuff rather than data visualizations, which again, it goes back to what's your why.
There is always, all right, so standards are part, and as long as Tristan himself made the connection with programming languages, they are related to an effort to standardize things. And there is value in standardizing decisions and systematizing decisions. There's value because when you create something in a standard way and in a systematic way, that creates familiarity on the part of the reader. You always see things the same way, and therefore...
Adam's point as well, consistency.
Yeah, you grow familiar, consistency. So there's value in that. And I'm in favor of 90% of the time, or 99% of the time, respecting those standards, being systematic, not surprising readers needlessly with crazy graphic forms or whatever. But there are some cases in which you need to do that. It's only that you need to provide reasons, a justification. I'm doing this because, these are my reasons. I have tested it. It works. Therefore, I think that we should do things this way. Visualization design is a conversation. It's the process of applying or conducting a conversation with yourself and with others. That conversation can involve those standards, but it should also involve observing how people operate with visualizations in the real world.
Yeah.
And you need to combine it all, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So Adam B had brought up a comment on that. So he had a question also, and I like Adam's name. Thoughts on using emojis when building dashboards?
only the poop emoji, I would say.
Oh.
No, yeah. That's the cutest one. Come on, that's the cutest emoji of all.
Work poop into the live stream. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that would be related to the topic of the dashboard of the presentation. If it is a serious dashboard just for analysis, I would not
know your audience.
To do that, but yeah, know your audience. I don't know. Maybe smiley faces and sad faces would be a good way to visualize, profits in a company, depending on the size of the smile, right?
Are your values going up or down? Like, and then there's
down.
Or is it going really down? There's the tear crying emoji.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
We're going.
I know this is. Oh, oh my goodness.
Okay.
All right, Andy, how do you get better at visual design?
How do you get better at writing? By writing. That's how you get better. You get, again, this is a craft. You get better at a craft by practicing the craft. You can certainly read books about the craft. You can go to tutorials and workshops and whatever. But at the end, what values is that you sit down, you do something, you get that something critiqued by other people who are already in the field constructively. Right? That's my classes. Actually, I usually tell the students, my classes, I will lecture you about visualization, I will teach about visualization, but at the end, where students learn the most is in the second half of the semester, where I give them a challenge. I say, let's do a story or a visualization about these. And I am not going to wait until the end of the semester to show me the product. You are going to show me these things every single week. And every single week, I am going to mercilessly critique what you have done. I'm going to tell you, well, these will work better this way, I think, or maybe you need to rethink that or rethink that. The sheer process of polishing constantly what you're doing, that's where they learn. When you actually see how those rules that you read about actually apply to the real world and how to break them. So you get good at a craft just by practicing it, by putting your work out, getting feedback from your work, and then going back to the drawing board and try again, and try again, and try again. Always trying to get a little bit better.
Yep. There you go. Lots of chats going off a little bit on the whole emoji thing, and apparently the batch here is still coming up still as well. So that's amazing.
I love emojis. I use emojis all the time when texting people and stuff. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Some people who are too self-serious tend to say, well, adults should not use emojis. Fuck that. Of course we should. They're fun. Yeah, they're fun. And sometimes they express an emotion better than words can, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Paul Turley. How you doing, Paul? Glad you're here. So
Paul.
one of the trappings of highly visual design is the tendency of the designer to persuade readers to see the importance of what we think is important. How do you avoid bias?
Yeah.
Well, you cannot. You cannot avoid bias in design. That's the short answer. You can't.
Yes.
And
That's,
regardless
no,
of
it
what
depends
you think,
there.
there's no independence there. No. Regardless, all that we can do, I think, is to try to be as honest as possible with what we are designing. So if you think that something is important, it's important to display and to highlight, you need to have very good reasons for that, why you think that this is important. And these reasons cannot be self-serving reasons. They should be reasons related to the well-being of the reader, to the benefit that the reader can obtain from that information. And then that would be a good reason to emphasize a particular portion of a data set or a particular message or a particular insight. Regardless of whether we think this or not, we always do that, right? So there's no way to design a completely unbiased visualization. All that we can do is to try to reduce that bias. And the way to do it is what I have just said, trying to be honest, trying to be straightforward, and trying to emphasize what you think that is important, but not thinking just about yourself. It's not what is important to you, it's what is important to the reader. You need to think about the reader. Why should the reader learn about these? Right? How they could benefit from that, and then work based on that.
Goes back to what we said a bunch of times. Like the people designing reports don't go talk to the people that are consuming it, and then you don't know. And
They
because
don't.
you think
They
you know
don't.
best.
They don't talk.
And
Well, maybe we need to incorporate more user experience researchers to our work.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
having them
That's
involved.
interesting.
I think Carrie had
I said perhaps, but I should avoid using the word perhaps. We must do that. We should
Yes.
absolutely do that.
Carrie had brought up a question too about that. Like, why do people just focus on the report developers and UXers, and why not hire more data visualization specialists, or to your point, researchers to go figure this out?
Yeah. Well, we need more people who specialize in visualization, but also user experience. Maybe you need that dual knowledge. Right?
Yeah. All right. There was another one. Dominique had a good question. I love this, where we see a lot of people that they default to the table visual. People coming from Excel, or a lot of business users, or if they're in finance especially, they love Excel. And so, can a report with tables only be a good report?
Yes, yes, it can. Yes, of course it can. A table, this is one, again, someone asked before about what are the first lessons in a data visualization, whatever. One of the first things is to think about, do you need a table or do you need a data visualization? How do you justify that choice? Well, you need a table when what you want to emphasize is the individual values. When the individual values in a data set are important and you want people to be able to identify each individual value, row, column, and then go to the value there in the middle, nothing beats a table. Nothing beats a well-organized, well-designed table. Nothing. But when what matters more is to display the overall patterns and trends in the data set, that is when you need a data visualization, not the table. Now, sometimes you need both. And therefore, you could lead with the data visualization that summarizes the data, displays the main patterns in the data, and then you compare that with a table. So, and we need to also think about that. People consume information in many different ways. There are actually people who are able to read tables very efficiently, and they like to see tables just because of that. I'm not one of those. I like to see graphics just because I think more visually. But we need to be aware that not everybody is like ourselves. Right? Again, another reason why
Yes.
testing is so important.
Yes.
It's why it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. All right, we are getting close to the end here. We'll grab see if we can grab a few more. Grabbing. Let's see here. Trying to grab someone I haven't put up yet. This is interesting. This may be so. This one, they're building a Power BI dashboard which replaces legacy assets very soon. Should I use the legacy assets to inform design choices or start with a clean slate?
By legacy assets, you mean sort of like design choices,
That was
things
my
that have been done
interpretation.
in a certain way
Yeah.
in the past. My intuition and my impulse, and again, I would need to know more about this specific case to have an informed opinion. But my impulse is to always build upon what is already upon what already exists over what is or is already existing, and the reason for that is familiarity. When you break the mold too much and you depart from something radically to something else, the first reaction from people to things that are new is rejection. Oh, what is it that I'm looking at? This is so different, right?
Yeah.
So
Nobody
I,
likes
I, I
change.
tend, nobody likes sudden change. Unless that the sudden change is fully justified and you can prove it, you can show it, you can explain it, you can evangelize, you can teach people how to use a new design, those will be good reasons to depart from the original design. But in general, I tend to favor more a gradual process that will take you there rather than just a sudden change. But again, this will greatly depend on the situation. If the legacy design is terrible and didn't work and terrible color palettes, design decisions related to typography, then by all means, just scratch everything, begin from scratch, design something completely new,
Yeah.
and try to do it better. Only then you will need to do some extra effort in teaching people how to use that new design.
Yeah. All right. Let's go with Robin's got a question here. So how important do you think interactivity in visualizations is to engage users? For instance, the new Power BI field parameters allowing users to start exploring the data in ways that they feel personal. So interactivity.
So interactivity is like any other feature in visualization or information design. Does it serve a purpose? Then by all means, great, we use it. It's like animation. We should never use animation for animation's sake. But sometimes animation is extremely useful. When you are creating, for example, transitions between different types of charts, you create an animated transition between them. That has value because it helps people navigate the graphic better. They see the connection between the previous graphic and the next graphic. So that's a good reason to use animation. Interaction is the same. If you can reason and justify that the interaction makes the graphic more appealing, more personal, then that's a good reason to use it. In one of my books, I talk what I call the me factor. Where am I in the data? I usually put the example, if you show me, let's say, the density curve of wealth in the United States, in which the horizontal axis is wealth from $0 to billions of dollars, and then with the height you show me the number of people at each part of the income distribution, that curve looks obviously very skewed. It looks sort of like these, right? And then with a very long tail of fewer and fewer people that are very, very rich. That's interesting per se. It's interesting per se because you see how skewed the curve is. But in addition to that, before you show me the curve, you ask me how much money you make every month, right? Or give me sort of like roughly how much money you make. And then we overimpose a line that says, you are here. I call that the me layer in visualization. We have a lot of evidence showing that greatly improves engagement with the graphic because we like to see ourselves, right? You see the line saying, you are richer than 40% of the population and poorer than 60% of the population. Yeah. That brings you into the data. It's not just a raw data set that has no connection with your life. Now it's suddenly personal. It is you in the data somehow. Yes. So interaction has its values, obviously, yes.
Awesome. All right, so last question, actually coming from Chatmaster C. So let's see here. So Alberto, can you tell me about that drawing table in the background? I think my kid would love that.
If your kid loves drawing, I love drawing.
Yes.
I like drawing sketches. I read comic books when I was in college, and I have sketching and drawing as one of my pastimes and hobbies. I love drawing maps by hand, for example, and then photoshopping them to make them look professional. But if your kid loves drawing, that's a great gift because it's really comfortable. You can change the angle. It's really large, so you can do big art pieces on it. So it's lovely. It's lovely, and it's not that expensive.
Yeah. Do you know what the actual make model of it is, or?
I don't remember. I just got it. Yeah, I don't know. I just Googled drawing boards and I just selected one.
Or Bing. It's fine.
And any model that is adjustable and big enough for the type of art that you want to make will be fine.
And we live in Texas, so big tables are great here. So that's good. All right. So, Alberto, thank you so much. We are at time. I greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join the community and answer questions. They're just seeing a lot of the chat reactions. It was very well received. Everyone loved it. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me.
What's going on in your world that people should know about?
Well, I mean, other than I'm working on a new book that I'm supposed to finish by the end of the year, and that I must say maybe the last book that I write about visualization per se. Other than that, not much. I'm just I'm at home. I'm teaching from home, enjoying life with my children.
Awesome.
And so yeah. Becoming
Excellent.
Older, which is also an experience on its own.
Yeah, that's it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry we definitely did not get to all of the questions. There were 3 more pages of questions, so maybe at some point in the future we'll be able to get Alberto back and we can continue the conversation. And then for everyone's Power BI related questions, come back next Saturday, and we'll go after those questions. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week, Alberto. Enjoy.
Take care, everyone. Thank you again.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.